Today, we are going to discuss a story that has been making waves across news outlets and social media. It's about the reported destruction of an Israeli Defense Forces helicopter inside Gaza, and the way this single event has been described as a breaking point that pushed Israel into a state of alarm and panic. The incident is not only about military hardware being lost, but also about the wider implications it carries for the ongoing conflict, the image of the Israeli military, and the morale of both sides. The reason why this story has become so important is that the IDF is widely considered one of the most powerful and technologically advanced militaries in the Middle East. The loss of any aircraft, especially a helicopter involved in active operations, raises many questions. Was it taken down by a surface-to-air missile? Was it a case of technical failure, or was it ambushed in a way that caught the crew off guard? Each possibility paints a different picture of the situation on the ground, and each one has different consequences for Israel's military strategy. For Gaza, which has long been under siege and heavily bombarded, the claim of shooting down an Israeli helicopter has symbolic weight. It is presented as a sign of resistance and proof that even the strongest military can be vulnerable. For Israel, however, the implications are serious. Losing an aircraft in hostile territory is not just about equipment. It is about the soldiers on board, the morale of the troops, and the confidence of the public in the army's ability to conduct operations with minimal losses. When we talk about panic, we need to look deeper into the psychology of warfare. Panic does not mean chaos in the sense of a total breakdown, but it refers to how a state reacts when its image of control and invulnerability is shaken. Israel has built much of its military doctrine on the perception of overwhelming superiority. If militants in Gaza can down a helicopter, it undermines that perception and raises doubts about how secure Israel really is in its operations. The event also carries diplomatic weight. Israel's allies, particularly the United States and European nations, closely monitor these developments. A successful attack against Israeli aircraft may lead to concerns about escalation. It raises the question of what new weapons groups inside Gaza might have acquired and who could be supplying them. Discussions quickly shift toward Iran, smuggling routes, and the possibility that the resistance factions are better equipped than many analysts previously thought. For the families of Israeli soldiers, such incidents strike a very personal nerve. Every helicopter downed is not just a statistic. It is potentially the loss of pilots and crew members, sons and daughters who are highly trained and deeply valued. News like this sparks fear among military families and raises pressure on the government to explain what happened and how they will prevent such incidents in the future. On the Palestinian side, news of the helicopter destruction spreads quickly through communities. It becomes a rallying point, a narrative of defiance against overwhelming odds. Videos, images, and statements are circulated to show that the resistance is not powerless, that it can hit back even against the most advanced technology in the region. This strengthens morale in Gaza at a time when people face constant bombardments, shortages, and restrictions. Strategically, helicopters are not just flying machines. They are critical tools for moving troops, evacuating casualties, conducting surveillance, and providing close air support. Losing even one reduces the effectiveness of ongoing operations. Commanders must reconsider flight patterns, increase precautions, and possibly scale back certain missions. That means the impact is felt not just in one incident, but across a wider theater of operations. Military analysts have pointed out that Gaza, despite its small size and heavy surveillance, has always been capable of surprising Israel. From the tunnel networks to the use of drones, to the ability to fire rockets deep into Israeli territory, each unexpected tactic forces Israel to adapt. The destruction of a helicopter fits into that pattern. It shows that the battlefield is never static, and that assumptions of absolute control can be misleading. Israel's panic in this case refers to a sense of urgency and alarm within political and military leadership. Whenever something unexpected happens, leaders are forced into emergency meetings, intelligence assessments, and damage control. The public must be reassured, allies must be briefed, and enemies must be deterred from thinking that one victory could lead to more. This chain reaction explains why one helicopter going down becomes headline news across the world. The wider question, though, is what this means for the future of the conflict. Does it mark a shift in the balance of power, or is it just a rare event that will not repeat often? If resistance groups can reliably target Israeli aircraft, then Israel may face limitations on its ability to conduct free operations over Gaza. That could change the entire calculus of warfare in the region, forcing Israel to consider new strategies or even pushing it toward more aggressive responses. At the same time, the destruction of the helicopter is used by various sides to tell very different stories. Israeli commentators frame it as a tragedy that highlights the ruthless tactics of militants who endanger peace and stability. Pro-Palestinian voices highlight it as a moment of justice, a sign that occupation and bombardment are not cost-free. The truth lies somewhere between narrative and fact, and the way people interpret the event depends on their political and emotional positions. Looking at history, Israel has lost aircraft in previous conflicts, particularly during wars with Lebanon and confrontations with Hezbollah. Each time, the event shook confidence, but also led to rapid adjustments. The IDF is known for learning quickly, upgrading its systems, and developing countermeasures. This suggests that while the incident is a breaking point in terms of shock, it may also serve as a catalyst for Israel to develop new technologies and tactics to avoid similar losses. Another element worth considering is how media plays a role. The spread of videos and reports about the destroyed helicopter fuels narratives far beyond Gaza and Israel. In the age of instant communication, images of burning wreckage or announcements of successful resistance circulate globally within minutes. This amplifies the psychological effect. Israel's panic is not just internal, but also tied to how the world perceives its vulnerability. Public opinion in Israel itself is another dimension. Citizens who already feel anxiety about rocket attacks or hostage situations may see the helicopter incident as proof that the war is not as under control as leaders claim. This can increase political pressure on the government, especially if opposition parties seize the moment to criticize current strategies. For the ruling leadership, balancing military decisions with public reassurance becomes even harder. Meanwhile, in Gaza, the destruction of the helicopter boosts confidence. People who face daily struggles against overwhelming odds find a sense of empowerment in seeing a powerful machine fall from the sky. Resistance factions use this to recruit, motivate, and sustain their fight. It becomes a symbol that keeps morale alive even in the darkest of times. The balance of symbolism and reality is key here. One helicopter does not change the fact that Israel retains overwhelming firepower. Yet the symbolism of its destruction is powerful enough to alter perceptions. Wars are not only fought on battlefields, they are fought in minds, in media, and in the stories people tell themselves about who is winning and who is losing. International reactions also matter. Regional players like Hezbollah, Iran, and other groups watch closely. They assess Israel's vulnerabilities and consider how these might play into future confrontations. Allies of Israel must reassure it of support, while adversaries gain confidence. The ripple effects stretch far beyond Gaza's borders. As the story unfolds, analysts will ask whether this was an isolated incident or part of a broader pattern. Was the helicopter destroyed by advanced weaponry recently smuggled into Gaza? If so, where did it come from? These questions matter because they determine whether Israel sees this as a one-time shock or a long, short-term threat requiring major changes in strategy. What is certain is that the psychological impact is already significant. Panic is not only about fear, but about the need to act quickly. Israeli leaders are likely recalibrating, reassessing their risks, and preparing stronger measures. The breaking point in the title does not necessarily mean collapse, but it indicates a moment when the perception of control begins to slip. For viewers following this story, it's important to understand that every incident in this conflict has layers. There is the military reality, the symbolic weight, the psychological effects, the political fallout, and the international dimension. Together, these layers create a complex picture where one downed helicopter becomes more than just wreckage. It becomes a symbol of shifting momentum and fragile confidence. The conflict between Israel and Gaza has never been static, and this event is a reminder of how volatile and unpredictable it remains. Every action has consequences, and every consequence shapes the next move. What happens after this helicopter incident will reveal how both sides adapt, respond, and prepare for what comes next. And as we continue to watch this story develop, it is clear that the incident marks more than just a tactical loss. It is a breaking point in perception, a challenge to Israel's image of invulnerability, and a signal that the conflict is far from reaching any form of resolution.